Here's Dominic Fobard weaving through traffic.
I hear he uses socks for dragging gloves, you know.
Slipper socks do have a lot of grip after all. That's a big accident. Hopefully Jimmy Lindo is okay.
Competing at VVS for over 5 years now, make Martin one of the veterans.
Now several laps into the session, Daniel Kochish looks to refine their line and timing. Neil just clocked 133.552. Can they improve on this lap?
Neil is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
James Pinkerton has set a best lap time of 132.449 so far.
As the session progresses, James Pinkerton is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Last lap was a 133.424, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Well, that is not good. Sten has crashed into the barriers.
At least they've not taken anyone else out.
The mid-table bandit is going well.
If he gets too far off the order, he'll get a nosebleed.
Daniel Kochish just clocked 136.551. Can they improve on this lap? Now several laps into the session, Greg Sabo looks to refine their line and timing.
Greg Sabo is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector with potential improvements.
Joel's last lap was a 134.072, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
As the session progresses, Joel Lemrick is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Bad Dog Phil just clocked 243.122. Can they improve on this lap? Greg Sabo has set a best lap time of 133.114 so far. Joel's last lap was a 134.222, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Now several laps into the session, Callum Walker looks to refine their line and timing. Martin has been competing at VVS for over 5 years now, which makes him one of the veterans on the grid.
Always nice to see him compete, he has really proven to be a great driver over the years.
I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Neil's Opel Astra.
That's gonna hurt in the morning.
Neil Constable Barry has set a best lap time of 133.274 so far. Mac just clocked 143.184, can they improve on this lap?
Mac is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Vaughn is testing the Audi TTR under more aggressive conditions.
This first flying lap will give us some insights into how Nico Vaughn's car is performing today.
Now several laps into the session, Rich Snape will refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, Rich Snape is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Greg Sabo has set a best lap time of 133.114 so far. A big impact for Vaughn. Vaughn just clocked 135.233, can they improve on this lap? Maximilian's last lap was a 132.875, aiming to shave off some seconds here. That's a big accident, hopefully Wallstrom is okay. John Boontakis has set a best lap time of 133.659 so far.
John is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Now several laps into the session, Daniel Kochish looks to refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, Daniel Kochish is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Tim Weller begins their out lap, feeling out the track conditions. Joel Lemrick just clocked 134.414, can they improve on this lap?
Joel is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Philip Koons has set a best lap time of 132.801 so far.
As the session progresses, Philip Koons is dominating, looking more confident with each lap.
Now several laps into the session, Nico Vaughn looks to refine their line and timing.
Nico is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Daniel Kocisz's last lap was a 135.578, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
As the session progresses, Daniel Kocisz is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Phil Bodkin has set a best lap time of 132.484 so far. Neil just clocked 136.358, can they improve on this lap? I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Wallstrom's Audi TTR. Now several laps into the session, Rich Snate looks to refine their line and timing.
Rich is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Elliot Norton has set a best lap time of 134.083 so far. Here's Dominic Fobard weaving through traffic.
I hear he uses socks for driving gloves, you know.
Slipper socks do have a lot of grip after all. Phil's last lap was a 135.046, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Constable Barry just clocked 133.406, can they improve on this lap?
As the session progresses, David Constable Barry is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Now several laps into the session, James Pinkerton looks to refine their line and timing.
James is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
A big impact for Jimmy. It's a lovely day for racing here at Circuit Zolder online as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race. Rich Snape has set a best lap time of 132.551 so far. Tim Weller is on their practice out lap, warming up the tires.
Tim Weller will be testing the limits, making sure everything's in sync for the faster laps to come.
The Tarmac Terrorist just clocked 132.410, can they improve on this lap?
As the session progresses, Maximilian Turbin is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Rich's last lap was a 133.161, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Elliot Norton has set a best lap time of 133.246 so far. That's a big accident, hopefully Lemrick is okay. Here's Dominic Fobard weaving through traffic.
I hear he uses socks for driving gloves, you know.
Slipper socks do have a lot of grip after all.
Competing at VVS for over 5 years now, make Martin one of the veterans.
Tim Weller begins their out lap, feeling out the track conditions.
This out lap is crucial for setting up the car's systems and getting a feel for the track.
Joel Lemrick just clocked 138.395, can they improve on this lap? Now several laps into the session, Phil Bodkin looks to refine their line and timing. It's a lovely day for racing here at Circuit Zolder, online as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race.
Tim Weller will be testing the limits, making sure everything's in sync for the faster laps to come.
Neil Constable Barry has set a best lap time of 1:32.589 so far. Phil has picked up some damage from that contact. James's last lap was a 2:25.387, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
James is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Tim Weller is now on their first flying lap. Let's see what they can do.
Keep an eye on how Tim Weller handles the curves at Sacrament Shilling. It's a good indicator of the car's balance.
Ricardo Snape Peasy just clocked 1:32.833 on this lap. Now several laps into the session, Tim Weller looks to refine their line and timing. Joel Lemrick has set a best lap time of 1:32.646 so far. Well, that is not good. Boontakis has crashed into the barriers.
Sucks to be them.
Boontakis just clocked 1:33.585. Can they improve on this lap? Now several laps into the session, Greg Sabo looks to refine their line and timing. Phil Bodkin has set a best lap time of 1:32.484 so far. A big impact for Callum Walker.
That a Euro-S the way she goes.
Jimmy Lindo just clocked 2:21.278. Can they improve on this lap? I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Norton's Mercedes.
That's gonna hurt in the morning.
Greg Zabo's last lap was a 9:47.686. aiming to shave off some seconds here.
As the session progresses, Greg Sabo is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Callum Walker has set a best lap time of 1:33.435 so far.
Callum is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Greg Sabo just clocked 1:34.285, can they improve? That's a big accident, hopefully Joel Lemrick is okay.
At least they've not taken anyone else out.
Nico's last lap was a 3:02.464, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Well, that is not good. Sten Wallstrom has crashed into the barriers.
Sucks to be them.
Now several laps into the session, John Butakis looks to refine their line and timing. Tim just clocked 4:05.886, can they improve on this lap?
Tim is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Philip Koons has set a best lap time of 1:31.695 so far.
As the session progresses, Philip Koons is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Chris's last lap was a 1:32.916, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Contact between John Butakis and Daniel Kochish.
Some say he has no matching socks, and that he accelerates with his left foot. All we know is, he's called the period.
Stokes just clocked 1:32.916, can they improve on this lap?
Chris is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Now several laps into the session, Greg Sabo looks to refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, Greg Salvo is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
David Constable Barry has set a best lap time of 1:33.296 so far.
David is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Greg Sabo just clocked 1:34.819. Can they improve on this lap? I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Neil Constable Barry's Astra.
That a Euro S the way she goes.
Now several laps into the session, Neil Constable Barry looks to refine their line and timing. Chris Stokes has set a best lap time of 1:32.916 so far. David's last lap was a 1:33.10. They shave off some seconds here.
As the session progresses, David Constable Barry is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Now several laps into the session, John Boontakis looks to refine their line and timing.
John is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Philip Kunz just clocked 1:51.978. Can they improve on this lap? Callum Walker has set a best lap time of 1:33.435 so far. James's last lap was a 1:31.465, aiming to shave off some seconds here. A big impact for Sten. Wallstrom is testing the TTR under more aggressive conditions. Lindo just clocked 2:03.310. Can they improve on this lap?
As the session progresses, Jimmy Lindo is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Now several laps into the session, Chris Stokes looks to refine their line and timing.
Chris is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Ross Elliott is now on their first flying lap. Let's see what they can do. John Boontakis has set a best lap time of 1:32.562 so far. Well, that is not good. Elliot Norton has crashed into the barriers.
At least they've not taken anyone else out.
David just clocked 1:33.561. Can they improve on this lap? Now several laps into the session, James Pinkerton looks to refine their line and timing.
As the session progresses, James Pinkerton is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
That's a big accident. Hopefully Joel Lemrick is okay.
That's gonna hurt in the morning.
Joel's last lap was a 1:32.289, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
Joel is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Callum Walker has set a best lap time of 1:33.223 so far. Now several laps into the session, James Pinkerton looks to refine their line and timing. Joel Lemrick has picked up some damage from that contact. Joel's last lap was a 1:32.289, aiming to shave off some seconds here. Ross Elliott has set a best lap time of 1:32.858 so far. Sten Wallstrom makes their way through Jochen Rindt-Bach, pushing the pace.
This first flying lap will give us some insights into how Sten Wallstrom's car is performing today.
Pinkerton just clocked 3:24.394. Can they improve on this lap?
As the session progresses, James Pinkerton is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
Now several laps into the session, James Pinkerton looks to refine their line and timing.
James is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Here we go, folks. The atmosphere is electric as the drivers prepare to unleash their machines on the track at Circuit Zolder, online for the qualifying session.
We're about to witness some serious hard as they battle it out for a chance at the front of the starting grid.
It looks like Constable Barry is getting ready to make their move. They're taking their time to warm up those tires and get everything just right. Track and getting ready to push for their qualifying time.
This is the moment they've been preparing for. Let's see if they can execute.
It's all about strategy in these early moments. Chris is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run and get everything just right.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if Stokes can deliver.
David Constable Barry is on their first flying lap. DCB has just completed that lap in 1:33.800. Their best lap so far is 1:33.800, putting them in P2. Will they be able to hold onto that spot? It's clear that Elliot Norton is on a mission in this qualifying session. They're pushing their car. Norton has just completed a lap in 1:32.973. Let's see if they can improve on that time further. It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Greg Sabo is nailing both.
It's certainly exciting to watch, but let's not forget, the goal is to set.
Greg Sabo has completed their first flying lap in 1:54.776. I think I just saw a blur fly by. Oh wait, that's just Jimmy Lindo going at lightning speed.
Well, Hal, it seems like Lindo has got the need for speed and nothing is going to stop them now.
Someone call the fire department, because David Constable Barry is setting this track on fire with their performance. That's a big collision between cars. Woohoo! Jimmy Lindo is really turning up the heat out there. I'm getting goosebumps just watching them go.
Is it just me or does it feel like we're watching a superhero in action here?
Jimmy Lindo is absolutely smashing it. Lindo will be happy having put themselves into first in this qualifying session. A solid performance from James will be happy having put themselves into 4th in this qualifying session. A solid qualifying performance by Maximilian. Maximilian has some work to do as that 132.155 is only good enough for 6th. A disappointing performance from Greg Sabo so far in this qualifying session. Finding themselves in 22nd position is certainly not what they were aiming for. However, they have the talent and experience to. Greg Sabo has some work to do as that 134.008 is only good enough for 18th. A challenging session for Koons so far. Philip Koons has just completed that lap in 131.663. Their best lap so far is 131.663, putting them in P2. Will they be able to hold onto that spot? Impressive display by Chris Stokes, currently sitting in position 5. They've set a competitive time, but the question remains whether they can push even harder to secure a better starting position. Chris will be happy having put themselves into 1st in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure they can find a little extra in there.
It's a dominant performance from Baldylocks in this qualification session. They have shown exceptional form and are leading the way. Their confidence is shining through, and they are proving why they are considered one of the best in the business.
You're absolutely right, Hal. Stokes has been absolutely exceptional in this qualifying session. Their performance is a testament to their skill and determination.
It's a very still day here at Circuit Zolder, online, as we're getting ready to kick things off.
All eyes are on the track. It's a perfect day for racing, and the excitement is palpable.
Pole position, a prime spot for Chris Stokes to attack. We're seeing John Astrup in the second spot. The third position is occupied by Philip Koons. Jimmy Lindo is holding down the fort in fourth place.
putting that CLK into prime position for the race.
Taking off from the 5th grid slot is the skilled driver, Martin Mole.
Martin will be expecting to bring home solid points.
Sitting in 6th is James Pinkerton. In the middle of the pack, we have Maximilian Turbin starting from the 7th position on the grid.
They will be looking for some good points towards their Pro-Am class campaign today.
The 8th starting position belongs to Mac McFarquhar, who will be looking to make up ground early on. Daniel Kochish is lining up 9th. Starting from 10th on the grid is a good position for Elliot Norton to launch an attack.
Elliot will have wanted a better start than 10th.
Nico Vaughn has got their work cut out for them starting from 11th on the grid. Rich Snape is placed in 12th. Dominic Fovarg has qualified 13th. Starting from 14th on the grid is not ideal for Joel Lemrick, but they're a fighter. Neil Constable Barry may have a bit of work to do starting from 15th on the grid. On the 16th grid slot we have Phil Bodkin.
Not a grid spot Phil will relish.
Sitting in 17th it's Ross Elliott. David Constable Barry is 18th.
Not the highest grid spot for David.
Greg Sabo is going to be starting from 19th. Lining up in 20th is Callum Walker.
A tough start.
John Boontakis has qualified 21st. On the 22nd grid slot we have Tim Weller.
22nd is going to be where Tim wants.
And we have liftoff. The race is now underway. This first sector will test the drivers' skills and their ability to stay focused.
Maintaining composure is essential in this high-stakes environment. The ability to react and adapt will be the key to success.
Does Mac know this isn't a one-lap race?
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
Talk about a rough beginning. Dave's dad must feel like they've got the world's heaviest anchor attached to their car, dropping positions at the start.
It's an uphill battle, and Constable Barry just made that hill a little bit steeper for themselves. How?
Maybe Constable Barry hit the snooze button one too many times this morning, already losing. There has been a crash. Joel Lemrick has come together with Neil. Mac had better wake up a bit here, Sky, else they are going to find themselves pushed to the back if they don't get up to speed. They have already dropped down the running. A little bit of contact between Joel Lemrick and Neil Constable Barry.
Isn't that classed as rubbing?
These early salvos will shape the outcome of this race. The tension is palpable here. No one will want to make a crucial mistake on the first lap. It's braking update, and Stokes in 8th is coming into the pits, and that might be to serve a penalty.
That's not where they want to be right now.
The adrenaline is pumping as Elliot Norton gets within striking distance of Dominic Fovarg in their race for 7th. It looks like Norton is making a move. The gap to Dom is now down to 0.1 seconds.
Needed. They can't afford to lose any more ground to Dominic Fovarg.
And Elliot Norton has just won the place from Fovarg. Snape and James Pinkerton seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
That could have been much worse.
Coming into view, the fight for ninth is heating up. Who will be the first to blink?
If this battle ends in tears, it could be like watching a high-speed domino effect, but let's hope they keep it clean and avoid any unplanned games.
It's been a solid race so far for Lord Farquaad. They're holding their positions and keeping a steady pace.
That's the mark of a good driver. Mac is staying focused on their own race and not getting distracted.
No room for error here. Ross Elliott is breathing down the neck of Boontakis, waiting for the perfect chance to make their move.
You can feel the intensity in the air. The slightest mistake could cost either of them the race.
It's looking good for Elliott, who has gained places and put some distance between themselves and John Boontakis. Wow, McFarquhar is really pushing hard to catch up to Fovard. There's blood in the water for ninth place.
This is what separates the good from the great. The ability to perform under pressure every lap.
What a move. Mac McFarquhar has moved up to ninth. Oh dear, Mac McFarquhar has dropped down to 10th. This is a thrilling battle as Stokes edges closer to Neil Constable Barry in their fight for P18. Superb driving from Chris Stokes, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Holy moly, that is some serious contact between Nico Vaughn and Phil Bodkin.
I hope they can both continue and make it to the end.
They're going side by side, door handle to door handle. This is as close as it gets, folks. Who will have the courage to outbrake the other? This is not looking good for Dave's dad. They've just lost 16th to Phil and their strategy seems to be similar. This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit. There has been a crash. Dominic Fovard has come together with McFarquhar.
These drivers need to calm things down.
This is where legends are made. Which driver will rise to the occasion and claim victory? An impressive showing from Daniel Kochish, who has gained positions and left Maximilian Turbin in the dust. It looks like Constable Barry is caught up in a significant incident. Hold your breath, folks. These drivers are showing exceptional car control, threading the needle through tight corners. It's a battle for supremacy.
You're absolutely right, pal. The level of respect these drivers have for each other while pushing their limits is commendable. It's a testament to their professionalism and love for the sport.
That's a big collision between cars. Nico could be looking for a way up the inside of McFarquhar.
Do they have the speed for a move, and more importantly, do they have the talent?
A great moment for Nico Vaughn, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings.
Absolutely. Nico is really putting on a clinic out there, and they're making it look easy.
The tension is palpable. Who will come out on top in this epic showdown? A great pass for Pinkerton as they pick off other drivers and move up the field. Meanwhile, Maximilian Turbin has lost ground. Constable Barry seems to be putting the pressure on John. Constable Barry could be on a charge here. Sky, they have just put in a quicker lap than John Buntakis.
The question is now, can Buntakis respond to that in time?
A little bit of contact between Lord Farquaad and Rich Snape. This is going to be a nail-biter. Rich Snape is defending for their life, but McFarquhar is right there. Can they do it? Rich Snape is on a charge. Their split time shows they have upped their pace.
Can Rich Snape keep it together?
It's an intense battle for position as Nico Vaughn tries to outmaneuver Lord Farquaad. This is edge-of-your-seat racing.
As an experienced driver, I can tell you that Vaughn must be laser-focused on Lord Farquaad's every move, looking for the slightest weakness to exploit.
A setback for Nico Vaughn, who has just been passed.
That's got to be frustrating, but Nico Vaughn is a skilled driver, and they have what it takes to battle their way back up the field.
A tough there has been a crash. Chris has come together with Vaughn. It's a game of inches now as Phil Botkin tails Dave's dad closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake.
When I was racing, we had a saying, if you're not living on the edge, you're taking up too much space. Phil is definitely living on the edge today.
Talk about being caught in the middle. Phil Bodkin is sandwiched between their rivals, John Buntakis 0.2 seconds behind and Neil Constable Barry 0.2 seconds ahead. The battle for position is on.
Spot on analysis, Al. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind are like a double-edged sword for Fat Dog Phil. They can use the gaps to their advantage, but they also need to be aware of the threats from both directions.
We often hear drivers complaining about tire graining. Sky, can you explain what that means and how it affects car handling?
Graining occurs when small rubber particles roll up on the tire's surface, reducing grip and negatively affecting handling. It usually happens when the tires are not in their optimal temperature window or when a driver is pushing too hard on a cold or overworked tire.
This is where the race gets really interesting. Elliott is closing in on Rich Snape.
The gap between them is just over 0.4 seconds. Can Elliott close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
It's not looking good for Elliott. They are still behind Snape and the gap is increasing. They are gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. It looks like David Constable Barry is pushing hard to catch up to John Buntakis. The gap is over a second, but David Constable Barry is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on John Buntakis?
Indeed, the tension is palpable as Daddy Dave tries to reel in John Buntakis. But John Buntakis is not making it easy, maintaining a consistent pace. Can David Constable Barry find some extra pace to bring the fight to Buntakis?
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Norton will need to keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. It looks like John is caught up in a significant incident.
What comes around is all around.
Every move counts now as Lord Farquaad works to reel in Rich and overtake for P11. Great driving from Lord Farquaad, who has just gained a place and moved up to 11th. David is looking for an opportunity to get round Buntakis. Good news for David Constable Barry, the gap to Buntakis has decreased. It's now down to 0.1 seconds.
That's a great effort from Constable Barry. They need to keep up the pressure and see if they can make a move.
We got a close battle as McFarquhar closes in on Greg Sabo.
A misjudgment by either driver could result in a close encounter of the tire barrier kind, and that's one handshake they'll want to avoid.
Best laid plans of mice and men Husky, but it's certainly not going to plan for McFarquhar right now as they are struggling to keep up with Greg Sabo. DCB is giving it their all as they chase down John Butakis in P17. It looks like John Butakis is pulling away from Daddy Dave. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Sterrenwalkbach. It's a brilliant day for racing here at Circuit Zolder, online. I'm really enjoying this.
This race is truly epic. What a treat to be sat here witnessing.
Breaking alert. It's a tale of two drivers right now. David gaining places and John Butakis losing them. The pursuit is on. Lord Farquaad is Baldy Locks and Greg Sabo seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
It's not the worst accident I've seen, but I don't think those two will be friends after that.
Neil is running 18th. They are trying to catch John Butakis. The gap between Neil and Butakis is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. The intensity is off the charts as Greg Sabo hounds McFarquhar, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit.
You know what they say, keep your friends close, and the racing rivals even closer. Looks like Greg Sabo is taking that advice to heart today.
Greg Sabo appears to be losing ground on Mac. They will need to pick up the pace a bit as they head into Lucien Bianchi-Bach, to an exit to gain some ground. The gap between Phil and Nico Vaughn is pretty substantial. That's a big collision between cars.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
We're starting to see who really has the pace now in this race as McFarquhar is starting to climb all over the back of Stokes. Any closer and they may need to pop the boot. Excellent work from Chris, who has managed to increase their lead over Lord Farquaad. They seem to have found their rhythm and they are grooving to it.
Yes, it's clear that Stokes is in control out there. They're making it very difficult for McFarquhar to catch up.
A brilliant maneuver from Chris Stokes, who has just moved up the field.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision what it's all about.
Look, there has been a crash. Mac has come together with Greg Sabo. The pressure is on for Elliott as they try to catch up to Constable Barry.
With just 0.4 seconds between them, will Elliott be able to keep up the pace and make a pass?
The gap between Ross and Constable Barry is getting smaller.
This is where the race gets really exciting. Both drivers will be pushing to the limit to gain the advantage.
Oh, this is getting intense. Mac McFarquhar is just behind Greg Sabo. And McFarquhar has just won the place from Greg Sabo. It looks like we might get a battle between Mac and Greg Sabo.
He'll be looking for a mistake to pounce on.
Well, that is not good. Greg Sabo has crashed into the barriers. It's a battle of wills out there, with Elliott trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Neil Constable Barry. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race?
It's a nail-biting race for sure, with both drivers showing incredible skill and determination. But Neil Constable Barry is not going to give up their position easily. This is going to be a battle to the very end, with Ross Elliott in P19 doing everything they can to catch up.
Well, it doesn't look like Norton is going to be much of a threat to anyone soon, let alone Daniel Kochish.
They certainly aren't going to be close enough to mount any kind of challenge soon unless it's down to a mistake from Daniel Kochish.
The gap between Norden and Daniel Kochish is widening. It's now up to 5.9 seconds.
This is a frustrating situation for Norden, but they can't give up just yet. They need to keep pushing and hope for a mistake from Daniel Kochish.
As a former racing driver, Sky, how important is the relationship between a driver and their team during a race?
It's absolutely essential. The team provides valuable information and support, helping the driver make the right decisions on track. A strong bond between the driver and the team can be the difference between winning and losing.
It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Constable Barry, who is currently in P18. But John Boontakis is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from Neil Constable Barry. It's not looking good for Constable Barry. They are still behind Boontakis and the gap is increasing. They are gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
Dave's dad is really going to need to push into Ramenbach to try and gain some ground on Boontakis before they disappear into the sunset.
As we enjoy seeing these titans of the track battle it out, let's not forget about the pit crews. Those guys and girls are like a well-oiled machine themselves.
Absolutely, they're the unsung heroes of the racing world. But you know what they say, behind every great driver is an even greater pit crew.
This is what high-octane racing looks like. Martin Knoll is breathing down the neck of Pinkerton, not giving them any room to relax. Martin Knoll is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 2.03 seconds down.
Can Mole refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they are capable of?
This is where the skill and precision of the drivers really comes into play. Rich is chasing Greg Sabo in P12. I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Ross Elliott's TTR.
Sucks to be them.
Neil Constable Barry is on a mission, chasing Boontakis who's desperately trying to stay ahead.
You can see that car bouncing around as they ride the curves. It's a risky move that could end in disaster.
The best laid plans of Mice and Menha Sky, but it's certainly not going to plan for Neil right now as they are struggling to keep up with John Boontakis. Tactics are clearly going to play an important part in this race.
They are going to need to look after their tires and will want to keep something in them for the crucial latter stages, as their tires wear and fuel levels deplete and the handling changes.
And don't forget the track grip increases as more rubber gets laid down. Wait, fantastic move from Neil Constable Barry, who has just gained a position. Holy moly, that is some serious contact between John and Neil Constable Barry. As we come into the final moments of this epic race, Astrup is in the lead. Can they stay calm and bring home the bacon? The leader has done it. What an incredible performance from Astrup, who was simply untouchable today. This is a race that will go down in the history books. Taking 20th and 23rd is Joel Lemrick and Sten Wallstrom. Impressive second place finish for Koons. That was an outstanding performance from Lindo. They fought hard and took the final spot on the podium. Finishing 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th is James Pinkerton, Martin Moll, Maximilian Turbin, and Daniel Kochish. Well, that is not good. Sten Wallstrom has crashed into the barriers. Elliot Gordon and Callum Walker in 8th and 21st. Dominic Fovard and Chris Stokes end in 9th and 10th. Followed by Mac McFarquhar in 11th. Coming in 12th and 13th we have Greg Sabo and Rich Snape. In 14th, 15th and 16th, Phil Bodkin, Nico Vaughn, and David Constable Barry. Neil Constable Barry claimed 17th. Tim Weller take 18th. Sky, the drivers are lined up and ready. Should we get it on?
Yes, Hal, we should definitely get it on.
Starting just behind the front runners in second place is the determined driver, Neil Constable Barry.
And like many others, they are starting the race on the medium's tire compound.
At third, we have the one and only David Constable Barry. As the drivers prepare to take off, Nico Vaughn sits in fourth place on the starting grid. The fifth position belongs to Phil Bodkin. Sitting in sixth is Rich Snape. From the middle of the pack, we have Greg Savo in seventh place on the starting grid. Mac McFarquhar will be looking to gain ground quickly as they start from 8th on the grid. The 9th starting position belongs to Chris Stokes, who will be looking to make up ground early on.
But sometimes the underdog can surprise you. Let's see what they've got in the tank.
Starting from 10th on the grid is a good position for Dominic Fovard to launch an attack.
We've not seen the best from Dominic yet.
Elliot Norden may not be starting from pole, but they're still in with a shot.
Norden won't be too disappointed with 11th.
Starting from 12th on the grid is a tough ask for Daniel Kochish, but they're up for the challenge. Maximilian Turbin has some work to do from 13th on the grid, but they're not out of the race yet.
But they're going to have to be aggressive if they want to make up ground on the leaders.
Martin Mole is lining up 14th. James Pinkerton will need to be on top of their game starting from 15th on the grid. Jimmy Lindo is 16th.
Where will the M-Class driver finish?
Sitting in 17th, it's Philip Koons.
It's Koons' time to show us what they're made of.
John Astrup is placed in 18th.
Mediums tires for John.
Lining up in 19th is John Boontakis. On the 20th grid slot we have Joel Lemrick. Callum Walker has qualified 21st. The green flag is out with the drivers off. A little bit of contact between Dom and Chris Stokes. I think passing is going to be difficult today here in Circuit Zolder, online, so it's going to be interesting to see how these drivers get on. There has been a crash. Snape has come together with Matt. Establishing an early advantage will be crucial to the outcome of this race. Settling into this really isn't what Phil wants to be happening right now.
It doesn't look like anything is hanging off, thankfully.
It's like Ross Elliott had a pair of wings tucked away, because they've soared up the leaderboard in the blink of an eye. Does Wallstrom know this isn't a one-lap race?
Mistakes so near the start are going to have an impact for the whole race.
The drivers are jockeying for position. Chris will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate their position. As the drivers get this race underway, let me give a shout out to the admin team at Virtual Velocity for making this all possible. Heroes one and all.
The race isn't won in the first turn, but there have been plenty that have ended very well.
Superb driving from Chris Stokes, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
That's what we like to see. Chris Stokes is really showing their class today.
What a move. Stokes has moved up to 8th. It's neck and neck, the closest battle we've seen in a while.
As a former driver, I can tell you there's nothing quite like the adrenaline rush when you're this close to your rival, ready to make your move.
A great moment for Macklin Farquhar, who has just place and moved up the standings.
Impressive. Lord Farquaad is really showing their skill and determination out there.
A brilliant maneuver from Lord Farquaad, who has just moved up the field.
You can't argue with results like that. Lord Farquaad,
Callum Walker and Ross Elliott seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport. It would seem Norton is starting to get a bit frustrated here at being held up by Martin Knoll. Fantastic move from Elliott Norton, who has just gained a position. Contact between Walker and James Pinkerton. It's a battle of wills out there, each driver trying to outsmart and outmaneuver the other. Big gains for Rich as they move up the field, leaving Tim Weller behind. It's a thrilling pursuit as Daniel Kochish is right behind Tim Weller, keeping the pressure on for 4th place. Superb driving from Daniel Kochish, who with that overtake has gained. There has been a crash. Stokes has come together with Weller.
that could have been much worse.
This is what it's all about, folks. The tarmac terrorist is in hot pursuit of Lemrick, who's just trying to stay ahead.
This battle between the tarmac terrorist and Lemrick is so intense, you could cut the tension with a knife, or should I say, with a front wing.
It's not going to plan for the tarmac terrorist. They are still behind Joel Lemrick and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. Hold on to your hats, folks. Mole is right on the heels of Tim Weller, and we're in for a wild ride.
I remember being in a similar situation during my racing days. Mole must be patient and wait for the perfect opportunity to overtake.
It seems like Martin Mole has got the bit between their teeth, improving on Tim Weller's lap time there. Oh, this is getting intense. Stokes is just a few car lengths behind Snape.
It's all about finding the perfect opportunity. Chris Stokes has got to stay patient and wait for Rich Snape to make a mistake.
Baldylocks is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Snape at the moment.
This needs to keep pushing, even though things aren't going their way. If they can close the gap down, they may be able to bring the fight to Snape.
The action is non-stop as Greg Sabo shadows Elliott through every twist and turn, determined to claim 14th.
If Greg Sabo gets any closer, they might as well ask Ross Elliott for a piggyback ride.
John and Maximilian Turbin seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
It's not the worst accident I've seen, but I don't think those two will be friends after that.
It's like watching two predators circling each other, waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. It's game on now. Joel has closed the gap. A little bit of contact between Lemrick and John Boontakis.
These drivers need to calm things down.
Mole is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play. The gap is 0.3 seconds now. Mole is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Stokes.
Coming into Lucien Bianchi Bach, the fight for 10th is heating up. It looks like James Pinkerton is caught up in a significant incident.
I hope they can both continue and make it to the end.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed.
Can Philip Kunz close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass?
The gap between Philip Kunz and Martin Mole is growing. It's now up to 0.5 seconds. The race is really heating up. Lindo is hunting down Callum with everything they've got. That's a big collision between cars. Baldylocks has the pedal to the metal chasing Daniel Kochich. It looks like Baldylocks is making a contact between Ross Elliott and Jimmy Lindo. It's a close race between Kunz and Rich Snape in 6th.
If Philip Kunz gets any closer to Snape, they'll need to start sending out wedding invitations.
It seems like Philip Kunz is struggling. They are not able to maintain their pace.
Can Philip refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they are capable of?
Palpable. These drivers are showing tremendous respect for each other while a big impact for Wallstrom. It looks like Wallstrom has been called into the pits. McFarquhar appears to be trying to find a way round Daddy Dave. They could make a move on them in Terlamenbach. Great driving from Lord Farquaad, who has just gained a place and moved up to first. Stokes and Daniel Kochich seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
Things are heating up as Walker closes in on Astra. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
That's right, Hal. The pressure is palpable. The fans are on the edge of their seats, waiting to see who will come out on top in this epic showdown.
What a move. Walker has moved up to 13th.
Absolutely. Callum is really putting on a clinic out there, and they're making it look easy.
This is where the race gets really interesting. The Kiwi is closing in on Callum Walker.
It's a game of strategy now as John hunts down Walker. Yes, it's all about choosing the right moments to push and when to conserve energy, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike.
The Kiwi has just put in a faster lap than Walker, so that's going to give them something to worry about. There has been a crash. Astra has come together with Walker. Look at that, Jimmy is hot on the tail of Callum. A brilliant maneuver from Lindo, who has just moved up the field.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about.
In your experience, Sky, what was the most challenging aspect of maintaining concentration during a race?
The most challenging aspect, Hal, was managing the various inputs and distractions.
Hold on a second. Disappointing for Jimmy. They now find themselves in 14th. Holy moly, that is some serious contact between Walker and Jimmy Lindo. Every move counts now as Elliot Norton works to reel in Ricardo Snape easy and overtake for P7. It seems like Norton is pushing. They are on for recording their best lap so far this race. Callum Walker is giving it their all as they chase down Constable Barry in P16. It's now down to 0.2 seconds.
This is what racing is all about. It's anyone's game at this point. Who will come out?
That's a big accident. Hopefully Lindo is okay. As they speed through Terlamenbach, Norton is relentlessly pursuing Rich Snape in a high-stakes battle for position.
It's a battle for position as Elliot Norton tries to make a move on Snape. This is what racing is all about.
The gap between Elliot Norton and Rich is widening. It's now up to 0.8 seconds. The adrenaline is pumping as DCB gets within striking distance of Chris in their race for second. A great moment for David Constable Barry, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. Tough break for Daddy Dave, who has just lost a position. I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Jimmy Lindo's Merc.
At least they've not taken anyone else out.
Weller wants to find a way round Callum Walker. The battle is on for their sandwich between two rivals. Greg Sabo 0.2 seconds away and Callum Walker 0.2 seconds ahead. It's a true test of their racecraft.
You hit the nail on the head, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind are crucial pieces of information for Weller's race strategy. It's a delicate dance, and they must remain vigilant.
That's a big collision between cars. Looks like Pinkerton is really pushing it to the limit. They're taking those curves aggressively, but that can unsettle the car and cause handling issues.
Indeed, taking too much curve can upset the car's balance, leading to oversteer or understeer. It's all about finding the right balance between speed and control.
Pinkerton is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 3.99. It looks like Walker is caught up in a significant incident. No room for error here. John is breathing down the neck of Daniel Kochish, waiting for the perfect chance to make their move.
John is so close to Daniel Kochish that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
It seems like John Astrup is struggling. They are not able to maintain their pace.
Can John refocus and start putting in the lap times we know they are capable of?
The crowd is on tender hooks as Vaughn in 18th chases after Tim Weller. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Nico Vaughn find a way to catch up? Vaughn is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 5.67 seconds down. Superb driving from Vaughn, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race.
That's what we like to see. Vaughn is really showing their class today.
Wow, Daniel Kochish is really pushing hard to catch up to Joel Lemrick. Holy moly, that is some serious contact between Lemrick and Daniel Kochish.
What comes around is all around.
It's a game of cat and mouse out there, with Walker trying to find the perfect opportunity to make a move on Nico Vaughn. The gap is over a second, but every fraction counts. Can Callum Walker close in enough to mount a challenge? The gap between Walker and Vaughn is getting smaller. The race is heating up as Joel in 12th closes in on Rich Snake. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
It's moments like these that make motorsports so exciting. We're witnessing a battle of skill and strategy between two great drivers, with Joel Lemrick in 12th determined to catch up. But we know Rich Snape isn't just going to hand it to them on a plate. Joel Lemrick is going to have to take it. It should be an interesting battle to watch as long as they can close that gap.
It looks like Callum is pushing hard to catch up to Nico Vaughn. The gap is over a second, but Callum is not giving up just yet. Can they close the distance and make a move on Nico Vaughn?
It's going to be tough for Callum Walker, as Nico Vaughn seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Callum Walker pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this. It's not looking good for Mole. They are still behind Philip Kunz and the gap is increasing. They are gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around.
It's not ideal for Martin Mole, but they can still turn this around. They need to concentrate on their own driving and not let the gap get any bigger.
Lemrick wants to close that gap with Rich. Joel Lemrick appears to be losing ground on Rich Snape. They will need to pick up the pace a bit as they head into Sacrament Shelling and see if they can get a good exit and gain some ground. Huge shout out to the admins at Virtual Velocity for making this all possible. Without their hard work and dedication, we wouldn't be able to witness this incredible event.
That's right, Hal, and the excitement is palpable. I can feel it in my circuits. I mean, this is the kind of race that people will be talking about in the bar. We're witnessing history in the making.
Things are heating up as Weller tries to close the gap to Callum Walker. The best laid plans of mice and men husk sky, but it's certainly not going. I think Wallstrom is starting to lose focus.
Come on, Wallstrom, hold it together.
The gap between Stokes and second and Mac McFarquhar remains over a second, but Stokes is not letting up. They're pushing hard and looking for any opportunity to close that gap up. Can they pull it back in the remaining 0 minutes?
Absolutely, Goldilocks and second will need to be patient and carefully work to reduce that gap without overdriving it, as they can't afford to take unnecessary risks and risk an off or damaging their car. Let's see if they have what it takes to get back into the game.
Neither Joel Lemerick nor Rich Snape is going to be happy with that.
Getting a penalty at this stage of the race is going to nullify any gains.
Rich Snape is running 13th. They are trying to catch Joel. It's not going to plan for Rich. They are still behind Joel and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. This is a thrilling battle as Daniel Kochish edges closer to Phil in their fight for P9.
Will Daniel Kochish be able to make a move and pass Phil Bodkin?
The gap between Daniel Kochish and Fat Dog Phil is growing. It's now up to 0.6 seconds.
Daniel Kochish needs to pick up the pace for sure, but I don't think they have it in them.
Oh, this is getting intense. Ricardo Snake Easy is just a few car lengths behind Joel.
The mental game is just as important here. Rich Snape must keep their cool while putting pressure on Lemerick.
Snape is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Joel Lemerick at the moment.
This is where Ricardo Snape Easy comes into play. They need to try push, even when things aren't going their way.
Dave's dad is pushing really hard, but as we know, pushing too hard can lead to other mistakes, like locking up the brakes or missing a shift. These drivers are walking a tightrope between pushing the limits and making costly errors.
Absolutely, it's all about finding that sweet spot where you're pushing the car to its limits without crossing the line into reckless driving. That's where experience and skill come into play.
There has been a crash. Weller has come together with Constable Barry.
That is not a pretty sight.
And there it is. McFarquhar has completed the race in first place, setting a blistering pace that none of the other drivers can match.
That was a true masterclass in driving from Lord Farquaad. You could see them making split-second decisions with total confidence, and it really paid off. What a performance.
A nail-biting finish, but Baldylocks claims second place. Excellent work from David to secure third place on the podium.
Fantastic result.
Fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh sees Philip Kunz, Martin Roll, Maximilian Turpin, and Elliot Norton. John Astrup, Daniel Kochish, Phil Bodkin, and Ross Elliott brings home 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. With Joel Lemerick, Rich Snape, Greg Sabo, and Jimmy Lindo in 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th. Nico Vaughn, Callum Walker, Neil Constable Barry, and Tim Weller end in 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th. Followed by Sten Wallstrom in 20th. Dave's dad has decided to pit. I'm Hal, your VVS commentator bot. Let's do this. Daniel Kochish begins their out lap, feeling out the track conditions.
Daniel Kochish will be testing the limits, making sure everything's in sync for the faster laps to come.
Tim Weller is on their practice out lap, warming up the tires. It's a lovely day for racing here at Circuit Zolder, online as we watch these drivers warm up and get ready for the race.
This out lap is crucial for setting up the car's systems and getting a feel for the track.
John's last lap was a 1:32.795, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
John is really starting to push now, analyzing every sector for potential improvements.
Sten Wallstrom is now on their first flying lap. Let's see what they can do. Callum Walker has set a best lap time of 1:33.520 so far. Now several laps into the session, Chris Stokes looks to refine their line and timing. Daniel Kochish's last lap was a 1:32.524, aiming to shave off some seconds here.
As the session progresses, Daniel Kochish is dialing in, looking more confident with each lap.
David Constable Barry begins their out lap, feeling out the track conditions.
David Constable Barry will be testing the limits, making sure everything's in sync for the faster laps to come.
Sten Wallstrom has set a best lap time of 1:36.417 so far. Now several laps into the session, Joel Lemrick looks to refine their line and timing. Lemrick just clocked 132.523, can they improve on this lap? It's time to separate the contenders from the pretenders here at Circuit Zolder, online, as the drivers rev up their engines and put their skills to the test in the qualifying session.
The pressure is on to set the fastest lap times, and the tension in the air is palpable.
Martin Mole is on their out lap. Like Greg Sabo is getting ready to make their move. They're taking their time to warm up those tires and get everything just right.
These are the moments that really matter. Let's see if Greg Sabo can deliver.
This is where the mental game comes into play. Lindo is taking their time to prepare for their qualifying run.
This is the moment they've been preparing for. Let's see if they can execute.
It's all about precision and speed in qualifying, and Goldilocks is nailing both.
Let's see if they can put a good marker down.
Chris Stokes has completed their first flying lap in 1:30.698. It's clear that Lindo is on a mission in this qualifying session. Jimmy Lindo has just completed a lap in 1:33.112. Let's see if they can improve on that time further. Elliot Norton is on their first flying lap. Elliot has completed their first flying lap in 1:34.004. I don't know about you, but I think David Constable Barry might have a secret rocket booster hidden in their car. They're just that fast. Someone call the fire department, because Daniel Kochish is setting this track on fire with their performance. Woohoo, Goldilocks is really turning up the heat out there. I'm getting goosebumps just watching them go. I think I just saw a blur fly by. Oh wait, That's just Daniel Kochish going at lightning speed. Daniel Kochish will be happy having put themselves into third in this qualifying session. A tough qualifying session for Buntakis. They're currently mired. Buntakis has completed their first flying lap in 1:33.101. A challenging session for Astrup so far. They're currently in 13th position, which is not where they wanted to be. But in motorsport, we've seen remarkable comebacks, and John Astrup will be happy having put themselves into second in this qualifying session.
Every fraction of a second counts. I'm sure they can find a little extra in there.
Disappointing performance from Walker in this qualifying session. Currently in 19th position, they'll need to dig deep and find some extra speed to climb up the leaderboard and secure a better starting position for the race.
You're absolutely right, Hal. Callum is currently facing a challenging situation, but they have.
Callum Walker has just completed that lap in 1:32.149. Their best lap so far is 1:32.149, putting them in P10. Will they be able to hold onto that spot? Callum Walker has put in a great effort and currently holds 10th. With the session winding down, can they unleash their full potential and improve their starting position?
I couldn't agree more, Hal. Callum has done a fantastic job to claim 10th. The challenge now is to convert this opportunity into a strong race result.
A strong showing from Daniel Kochish as they currently sit in 8th. With the session drawing to a close, they'll need to dig deep and find that extra burst of speed to improve.
You're spot on, Hal.
Daniel Kochish has completed their outlap. It hasn't been the best qualifying session for John so far. They find themselves in 15th position, which is not where they had hoped to be. However, there's still time left on the clock, and they have the opportunity to make improvements.
Well said, Hal. It's certainly not the result John Buntakis was aiming for, but this is motorsport, and anything can happen. They'll need to stay focused, trust in their abilities, and seize any chance that comes their way to improve their position.
A tough outing for Buntakis in qualifying today. They currently sit in 15th position, which is far from ideal. However, there's a chance for them to regroup, analyze their data, and make some adjustments to their setup to improve their result. A gentle breeze is stirring at Circuit Zolder, online today, perfect for the start of the race. Pole position, a dream start for Chris Stokes.
The race is long, Chris Stokes can't celebrate yet.
Our second place starter, John Astrup, is poised to make a move towards the front. Philip Koons is lining up third. In fourth place, we have Mac McFarquhar. We're seeing Jimmy Lindo in the fifth spot.
But they're going to have to be quick out of the blocks if they want to keep up with the top performers.
From the middle of the pack, we have Ross Elliott in sixth place on the starting grid.
What can we expect from the British driver?
James Pinkerton will be looking to gain ground quickly as they start from 7th on the grid. Sitting in 8th is Daniel Kocic.
We've not seen the best from Daniel Kocic yet.
The 9th starting position belongs to Maximilian Turpin, who will be looking to make up ground early on. Callum Walker has qualified 10th.
It's the medium's tire compounds for Callum.
Starting from 11th on the grid is a tough ask for Joel Lemrick, but they're up for the challenge.
But they're going to have to be aggressive if they want to make up ground on the leaders.
Starting from 12th on the grid is a bit of a mixed bag for David Constable-Barry. Martin Mole is going to be starting from 13th.
The Dutch driver will want to show what they're made of today.
Nico Vaughn is 14th.
Where can Nico finish today?
John Boontakis is placed in 15th. Lining up in 16th is Neil Constable-Barry.
Constable-Barry should really be putting that Astra higher up the grid.
On the 17th grid slot we have Greg Sabo.
Greg Sabo will need to make up some places today.
Phil Bodkin is lining up 18th. Sitting in 19th it's Tim Weller.
Where can Tim finish in the Merc?
Rich Snape is 20th.
20th isn't going to be where Rich wants to be.
Elliot Norton has qualified 21st. Sten Wallstrom is placed in 22nd. The lights are off. It's pedal to the metal time.
Staying out of trouble in these early moments is crucial. It's a fine line between pushing hard and staying safe.
All the drivers will be trying to take advantage of the pack whilst they're still bunched up. There has been a crash. Tim has come together with Snape.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
The racing is normally closely fought here at Circuit Zolder, online. I think we are in for a cracking race.
It all comes down to this how, where the rubber meets the road. There's no more time for talk, no more practice. The teams have done all they can.
Does Bodkin know this isn't a one-lap race? The drivers are jockeying for position. The tarmac terrorist will be looking to get off to a good start and consolidate their position.
It's always intense racing here at Circuit Zolder, online. Hold on to your hat spokes.
Sweet baby Jesus.
That's one way to spoil your race.
There's some intense battling throughout the field as everyone is looking to get off to a good start.
The race isn't won in the first turn, but there have been plenty that have ended there how.
A little bit of contact between Maximilian Turbin and Daniel Kocic. It's a steady race for Nico so far. They haven't made any mistakes, and they are maintaining their focus. What a move. Nico Vaughn has moved up to 8th.
Amazing stuff. Focus and precision, what it's all about.
Pushing too hard can lead to mistakes, and we're seeing that now. That car is really unsettled as they push for every last bit of speed.
I think
I'm not sure which came off worse, the circuit or Callum Walker's TTR. The action is non-stop as Max shadows Coons through every twist and turn, determined to claim second.
that's right, McFarquhar is determined to pass Coons and secure a higher position.
There's not much to report on from McFarquhar at the moment. They're just keeping their head down and putting in consistent laps.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Mac McFarquhar should bide their time and wait for the right opportunity.
I'm curious, Sky, can you tell us about any pre-race rituals you had when you were racing?
Of course, Hal.
Stokes and Ross Elliott seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport. It's a game of inches now as James Pinkerton tails Stokes closely, ready to capitalize on any mistake. Big gains for James Pinkerton as they move up the field, leaving Chris Stokes behind. This is what high-octane racing looks like. Stokes is breathing down the neck of James, not giving them any room to relax. It seems like Chris is pushing. They are on for recording their best lap so far this race.
Can Goldilocks keep it together?
This is proving to be an exciting race so far. We are truly privileged to witness these legends of the track battle it out for victory.
And you know what? I am so honored to be sitting.
A big impact for Constable Barry.
That a Euro-esque the way she goes.
Coming into Terlamenbach, the fight for 6th is heating up. Who will be the first to blink?
Turbin is so close to Stokes that if this were a dance floor, they'd be doing the tango.
The gap between the tarmac terrorist and Chris is growing. It's now up to 0.4 seconds.
It's not ideal for Maximilian Turbin, but they can still turn this around. They need to concentrate on their own driving and not let the gap get any bigger.
You know, Sky, during a long race like this, how easy is it for a driver to experience a lapse in concentration?
It can be quite easy, Hal. With so many factors to consider and the intense concentration required, even the most experienced drivers can have a momentary lapse. That's why mental training and staying in the zone are so important.
This is a thrilling battle as Chris Stokes edges closer to James Pinkerton in their fight for P5.
Can Stokes close the 0.4 second gap and make a pass?
It's game on now. Stokes has closed the gap to Pinkerton. It's now down to 0.2 seconds. Every move counts now as Elliott works to reel in Lord Farquaad and overtake for P3. It seems like Ross Elliott is struggling. They are not able to maintain their pace. An impressive showing. There has been a crash. Ross has come together with Mac McFarquhar.
That could have been much worse.
Look at that. They're trading places in every turn. The game is cat and mouse. Each driver knows one mistake could cost them dearly.
I couldn't agree more, Hal. The proximity of these cars is incredible. The precision and trust these drivers have in each other is truly remarkable.
Talk about being caught in the middle. McFarquhar is sandwiched between their rivals, Maximilian 0.2 seconds behind and Chris 0.2 seconds ahead. The battle for position is on.
Absolutely, Hal. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind are like windows of opportunity for Mac. They need to assess the timing and make their move.
It looks like Mac McFarquhar is caught up in a significant incident.
What comes around is all around.
The tarmac terrorist is giving it their all as they chase down Lord Farquaad in P5.
Sometimes you have to take risks to win, but pushing the car too hard can be a costly mistake. Turbin wants to be careful not to overdo it.
It looks like Lord Farquaad is pulling away from the tarmac terrorist. The gap is continuing to grow as they head through Boulderbergbach.
This is a tough situation for Maximilian. They need to find a way to pick up some speed and close that gap.
This is what racing is all about. Two fierce competitors pushing each other to the limit.
You know what they say, keep your friends close, and the racing rivals even closer. Looks like Snape is taking that advice to heart today.
Snape is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Daniel Kochish at the moment. The gap between Vaughn and Maximilian is razor thin as they vie for 7th in this nail-biting contest.
Should things go south between Nico Vaughn and Maximilian, we might witness a high-speed game of bumper cars, but trust me, it's way less fun with real race cars.
Nico Vaughn appears to be losing ground on Maximilian Turbin. They will need to pick up the pace a bit as they head into Butte and see if they can get a good exit and gain some ground.
Vaughn needs to keep pushing, even when things aren't going their way. If they can close the gap down, they may be able to bring the fight to the
contact between Nico and Chris Stokes. This is what it's all about, folks. Baldylocks is in hot pursuit of Nico, who's just trying to stay ahead.
Can they close up enough for a pass? I don't see it personally.
Superb driving from Stokes, who with that overtake has gained a position in the race. Nico and David Constable Barry seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
It's not the worst accident I've seen, but I don't think those two will be friends after that.
Maximilian is running 7th. They are trying to catch pole. It's not going to plan for Maximilian Turbin. They are still behind Martin Hull and the gap is increasing. I don't think they have an answer for this right now. It's a close race between Greg Sabo and John in 14th. A little bit of contact between Greg Sabo and John Butakis. Oh, this is getting intense. Ricardo Snape-Easy is just a few car lengths behind Daniel Kochish.
The mental game is just as important here. Snape must keep their cool while putting pressure on Daniel Kochish.
It's not looking good for Snape. They are still behind Daniel Kochish and the gap is increasing. They are gonna need to dig a bit deeper to turn this around. It's a classic case of chasing down the car ahead for Daddy Dave, who is currently in P11. But Nico Vaughn is not making it easy, and the gap remains over a second. This will require some expert driving from David Constable Barry. It looks like we might get a battle between David Constable Barry and Vaughn. Look at that, Stokes is hot on the tail of the tarmac terrorist.
The gap between them is just over 0.3 seconds. Can Baldylocks close that gap and get back in range? I can't see it happening at this point.
It seems like Stokes has got the bit between their teeth, improving on the tarmac terrorist's lap time there. The tension is palpable. Who will come out? There has been a crash. Daddy Dave has come together with Elliott.
These drivers need to calm things down.
The race is really heating up. McFarquhar is hunting down Martin with everything they've got. Mac is not able to keep their pace consistent. So far they are 1.4. Well, that is not good. Nico has crashed into the barriers.
Sucks to be them.
The fans are on the edge of their seats. It doesn't get any closer than this. Stokes could be on a chargier sky. They have just put in a quicker lap than Turbin.
We will have to see if Maximilian has got any answers for that.
The pressure is on for Greg Sabo as they try to catch up to Buntakis. The best laid plans of Mice and Ben Huskai, but it's certainly not the plan for Greg Sabo right now as they are struggling to keep up with John Buntakis.
It's not over yet, but Greg Sabo should get a move on if they want to catch up to Buntakis.
This is where the skill and experience of the drivers really come into play. Goldilocks will need to keep pushing, even when the gap seems insurmountable. It's not over until the checkered flag drops. The gap between Chris and Turbin is getting smaller. Elliott is on a mission, chasing McFarquhar, who's desperately trying to stay ahead. A tough moment for Ross, who has just lost a place, dumping them down to 7th.
That's got to be frustrating.
Elliott and Maximilian Turbin seem to have forgotten that this is a no-contact sport.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
Vaughn is looking for an opportunity to get round Constable Barry. Vaughn has just put in a faster lap than Constable Barry, so that's going to give them something to worry about. Great driving from Nico Vaughn, who has just gained a place and moved up to 10th.
Impressive. Vaughn is really showing their skill and determination out there.
David seems to be putting the pressure on Nico. That's a big collision between cars.
That is not a pretty sight.
The intensity is off the charts as Daniel Kochish hounds David, both drivers pushing themselves to the absolute limit.
If Daniel Kochish gets any closer to Constable Barry, they'll need to start sending out wedding invitations.
A brilliant maneuver from Daniel Kochish, who has just moved up the field. It's a tale of two drivers right now, with Daniel Kochish gaining places and David Constable Barry losing them. Seems like Elliott is getting in range of Daniel Kochish.
Do they have the speed for a move, and more importantly, do they have the talent?
Holy moly, that is some serious contact between Nico Vaughn and David Constable Barry.
That will be one for the stewards to have a look at.
Rich Snape could be looking for a way up the inside of Nico Vaughn.
There is no room for error in this battle.
Hold your breath, folks. Ricardo Snape-Peasy is sandwiched between two relentless competitors. David Constable Barry 0.2 seconds behind and Vaughn 0.2 seconds ahead. They're fighting tooth and nail for every position.
I couldn't agree more, Carl. The gaps to the cars ahead and behind provide valuable information for Rich. They need to assess the situation and use the gaps strategically to find their moves.
What does Rich Snape and Severus Snape have in common?
They both have bottomless disdain for you.
Lol. Noah Euro, they both hate Harry Potter. There has been a crash. John Buntakis has come together with Jimmy Lindo. It's a thrilling pursuit as Nico is right behind Ricardo Snape-Peasy, keeping the pressure on for 11th place. The gap between Nico and Ricardo Snape Easy is growing. It's now up to 0.8 seconds.
Nico Vaughn needs to pick up the pace for sure, but I don't think they have it in them.
The crowd is on tender hooks as Turbin in 6th chases after Mac McFarquhar. The gap is just over a second, and you can feel the tension in the air. Can Maximilian Turbin find a way to catch up?
That's right, Maximilian in 6th knows they have to push to the limit if they want to catch up. But Mac McFarquhar is no slouch, and they're going to be pushing just as hard. It's a battle of skill and will out there.
The race is heating up as Vaughn in 12th closes in on Rich Snape. The gap is just over a second, and I'm sure they are going to do everything possible to try and close the distance. They're not giving up without a fight.
It's going to be tough for Nico Vaughn, as Rich Snape seems to have found their rhythm. But anything can happen in racing, and we've seen Nico Vaughn pull off some impressive moves before. I'm excited to see if they can make it happen again.
It's a battle of wills out there, with Constable Barry trying to outsmart and outmaneuver Nico Vaughn. The gap is slowly closing, but time is running out. Will we see a dramatic finish to this race? Looking at the lap times, DCV is not on pace with Vaughn. Can they turn it around? Sky, can you share some strategies that drivers use to manage tire degradation during the race?
Certainly, Al. Some strategies include adjusting the car's setup for better tire life, altering driving lines to reduce wear, and using tire management techniques like lift and coast to preserve grip for as long as possible.
Things are heating up as Chris closes in on Maximilian Turbin. The gap between them is down to practically nothing.
One wrong move and we could see a spectacular new synchronized pirouette performance by Stokes and the tarmac terrorist, though I doubt the judges will give them a spot.
A great moment for Stokes, who has just gained a place and moved up the standings. This is where the race gets really interesting. Mac McFarquhar is closing in on Turbin.
The gap is 0.4 seconds now. McFarquhar is going to have to work a bit harder to close that gap with Maximilian.
Looks like Elliott is really pushing it to the limit. At this stage in the race, Elliott needs to maintain more focus. Things are heating up as Baldylocks tries to close the gap to the tarmac terrorist. Baldylocks is trying their best, but can't seem to find the pace to keep up with Maximilian Turbin at the moment.
This is where the mental toughness of Chris comes into play. They need to try push, even when things aren't going their way.
Breaking news, folks. Chris Stokes has decided to pit. Breaking alert. Chris Stokes is in the pits. As they speed through Yersta Links, Norden is relentlessly pursuing Mac McFarquhar in a high-stakes battle for position.
If Elliott Norden gets any closer, they might as well ask McFarquhar for a piggyback ride.
It looks like Stokes is caught up in a significant incident.
What comes around is all around.
The tension is building as David trails behind Nico Vaughn. The gap is slowly but surely decreasing, and the pressure is mounting. Can Nico Vaughn hold on, or will David Constable Barry be able to close them down? On the final lap now, and Astrup looks like they might just wrap up this contact between Elliott Norden and Mac McFarquhar. A strong showing from Astrup, who is currently first.
Yes, but they have to keep their focus and drive with intensity. There's still a long way to go in this race.
And there it is. Astrup has completed the race in first place, setting a blistering pace that none of the other drivers could match.
You can see the sheer determination on Astrup's face as they take the win. That's the mark of a true champion, folks.
Impressive second-place finish for Pinkerton.
Intense race, but James Pinkerton held their nerve and earned a great second place.
That's a big collision between cars.
That is not a pretty sight.
In 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th, it's Martin Mole, Maximilian Turbin, Mac McFarquhar, and Elliot Norton. With Daniel Kochish in 8th. Rich Snape, Nico Vaughn, and David Constable Berry take 9th, 10th, and 11th. Coming in 12th, we have Greg Sabo. Phil Bodkin claim 13th. Ross Elliott and Neil Constable Berry end in 14th and 15th. 16th is Chris Stokes. Taking 17th is John Buntakis. Finishing 18th is That's a Big Accident. Hopefully John Buntakis is okay.